3, 2, 1, and we are recording. Okay, so hello everybody, and welcome to the 19th
19.
episode of
Yay, we got
Hell
it
in a
right.
Handbasket. Hooray! Right, this is a very rare occasion, so it's cause for celebration here at Hell in a Handbasket headquarters. This is a failure of intelligence is basically to be expected at this point. So the fact that we did not have a failure of intelligence, at least on my behalf, on my end. So today we have something really awesome for you guys, and what we're doing is Nanya and I are going to be looking over the Zelensky 60 Minutes interview. And the interview has been posted in Ukrainian, but the issue is that you have the actual 60 minutes long interview is in Ukrainian, and Nanya has not seen it. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking through it. We're going to be dissecting it. We're going to be reading out chunks of what Zelensky is saying, so for like easier listening. It's 60 minutes. So I guess we should get started. You got anything else to say, Nanya?
No, I'm ready to go. Like I heard that the interview caused
Hullabaloo.
a bit of tension, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So happy to sit down and go through it and give you my honest reaction. I haven't seen a second of it yet, so let's do it.
Let's do it.
Everybody all set? All right, Mr.
God, that's
President,
annoying.
off we go. What is the state of the war right now?
What is the state of the war?
Невизначеність. Мені здається,
Oh, I got a choice
По всьому.
translation.
і складність. Стан не такий складний для України, як був в перші дні, у перший момент війни, коли ми відчували, що ми без підтримки. Це було складно для людей. По-перше, шок, а по-друге, така психологічна демотивація, що як так може бути, як можна бути, що в сучасному світі в тебе летять ракети, вбивають людей.
How could it be that in the modern
І
world missiles are
це було
killing
дуже
people?
складно, але міць
How could it be in this modern world that missiles could be flying and killing people? Oh, Zelensky is shocked.
людей. І може
That's
навіть
what
той
happens
факт,
in
що
war.
Yeah, right. It was happening before Ukraine. It's happening at the same time as Ukraine and all over the world. It's happening, bro.
ти один вплинуло на те, що Україна об'єдналась. Без будь-яких зайвих політичних речей, красномовств тощо. Об'єдналась, вистояла, і потім цей сигнал, який пішов у світ, в Європу, Сполучені Штати Америки, і всі об'єдналися навколо України. І це такий став паркан
This
перед
became such a fence
метою Путіна
in front of Putin's
повністю
goal to
знищити нас.
completely destroy
А
us.
зараз невизначеність.
And
Тоді
now,
було
the
зрозуміло, ми боремося зі
uncertainty.
злом,
Then
і
it
ми
was
не
clear
одні,
that we were
і
fighting
нам буде
evil and
дуже
that we were
важко.
not
Країна в
alone, and it
40
would be
разів
very difficult for us.
більше нас. І все, про що говорив
Russia is 40
раніше
times
Путін, що
larger
він
than
хоче
us.
окупувати Україну, все
And everything
брехня.
that Putin said before
Абсолютна
is a lie.
визначеність,
He does not want
що
to
є добро,
occupy Ukraine. That's a
що є
lie.
зло, яка наша мета, хто з нами, хто проти нас.
Of course, he's laying out it's almost like they're reiterating their brainwashing. He's laying it out again. He's like, no, this is the story. Putin is Hitler. This is how it is. He's not allowing for any nuance in this conversation on purpose, right? This is exactly what he's doing. He's going out of his way to say, nope.
Yeah, and I understand that, there's probably a translation issue, but he's not making a whole lot of sense to me right now. Like, I'm not really sure what he's trying to say.
Well, he's trying to diplomatically, well, you'll see in a second. He's going along, he's taking a long route to say something.
Зараз ми сильніші на полі бою. Наша
We
армія
are now
сильніша,
stronger on the
ніж
battlefield.
були
Our
на
army is
початку війни,
stronger than it was at the beginning
але
of the war.
довга війна,
The
і
war is
втомлюються
long,
всі.
and everyone is
Невизначеність,
getting
тому
tired.
що
The
йде
uncertainty
розбалансування
is that the
партнерів.
imbalance of
І ми
partners
хотіли
is
більш
happening.
сильнішу позицію Сполучених Штатів
And we
Америки.
wanted a stronger position of the
А
United States
Сполучені
of
Штати
America.
Америки, наш партнер, ми розраховуємо на Сполучені
We're counting on the United States, yeah, of course.
Штати, але Сполучені Штати сьогодні зайняли позицію медіатора.
So he's going to bitch and complain that the United States is taking a role as a mediator. That's hilarious. He's like, we wanted the United States to take some role, like a different role, but they decided to take, unfortunately, the role of a mediator. What did you expect?
І я не знаю, покаже історія,
I don't
покаже
know.
майбутнє. І може
History
ця
will show. The
позиція
future
і
will show.
спрацює.
Maybe this
Ми
position
хочемо
will work.
вірити, що
We
ця
want to believe
позиція
this
спрацює
position
на те, щоб
will
закінчити
work
війну.
to end
Як
the
можна
war
швидше. Ми
as
хочемо
soon as
цього.
possible.
Ми дуже
We want
хочемо.
this. We really
Але
want it.
ми...
All right, time. You don't have to read it to me.
I know. I'm reading it out, dude. I'm seriously reading out huge chunks of it, the crazy stuff.
І іноді в деяких питаннях ми відчуваємо невизначеність партнерів. Наша ціль абсолютно така ж прозора і зрозуміла. Ми знаємо, хто Путін, ми йому не
We
довіряємо,
know who
ми
Putin
боремось
is. We
за
don't
себе
trust
і
him.
за свої права, свободи. І я все ж таки вважаю за спільні цінності західним
Right? I
цивілізованим
still
світом.
consider Western civil world to be our common values.
Тому я і
This
вважаю,
is where he's
що
going to be like,
невизначеність іноді гірше, ніж зрозумілий сильний ворог. І хороші партнери, на кого ти розраховуєш, 100% розраховуєш. Їх може бути не 100, не 200, не 300, їх може бути кілька, але ти знаєш, хто прикриває тобі спину.
it's like a sly way of saying, like, the United States, I don't know if you're those kinds of, that good friend, that one or two good friends that you really need, not 100, not 200. So who are those good friends? Oh, it's probably, UK and EU, right? The people that allow Zelensky to continue his stint as a dictator of Ukraine.
Невизначеність, вона в людях.
Uncertainty
І
is in
ви
people.
запитайте наших людей.
Zelensky is a philosopher.
Вони дуже бояться, що Сполучені Штати змінять свою політику. І це дійсно, я вважаю, що це страшно. Для наших людей зрозуміло, ми правда на нашому боці, ми все одно пройдемо цей шлях, я впевнений, все одно
We will still go this way, I'm sure.
вона закінчиться. Але для нас важливо, щоб вона закінчилася справедливим миром. Для того, щоб мир був справедливий, нам потрібна підтримка Америки.
He's like rambling. He's like saying two or three different things at once.
He's
saying
totally
that
rambling, and he's totally rambling. And the thing about it is, this is what I don't get with the Zelenskys and the Macrons and the Starmers of the world. It's like the U.S. administration, I think, has been pretty clear in what the direction is, and here we are a couple months later, and they still haven't gotten on board with it yet, and they're still playing like they're still putting their heads in the sand. And it's like, la 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 la, if I don't hear it, it's not going to happen. So he's talking about, we're worried that, the U.S. may change direction and blah, blah, blah. They already have. Like, has he not been listening? Was he not there in the White House?
he wants to not say it like that. He wants to see, this is what it is. They coached him. They were like, you can't say it like that. You got to be diplomatic. You got to say, like, you got to put it like, oh man, boy, would we love to really help our partners and have them be part of the rebuilding of Ukraine and make a lot of money in the process of doing that, But only our really best partners, our really good friends, not like the 100 or 200 fake friends that we had, He wants to lay it out. Like, he's still demanding, he's still asking for the same thing. He hasn't taken a step back. He's still on, I want security guarantees. I'm not giving up Ukrainian territory. You're going to see more of this. He said, we just saw him in the first 5 minutes make the claim that Ukraine today is a stronger army than Ukraine was at the beginning of the war. This is nuts. So he's all over the place, and he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. He's trying to ride two horses. He's trying to be like,
well, he just sounds like he's whining to me. Like, he's coming off as just being a whiner. And the thing about it is, we've heard all this before, and it's not like anything has changed. So I'm not really sure what he expects to accomplish from what he's saying, other than the fact that it's like the airing of grievances. He's just airing his grievances out or whatever. But
well, if you watch the segment that they basically spliced with this, where they took, this is why we're watching the 60-minute interview, because if they like the video that's making its rounds on the internet is like the 16-minute clip version, where they take the parts of the interview that make sense and then they back it up with like monologue in the background, So the actual interview itself I think is much more telling.
підтримка інших партнерів, і щоб у них не було невизначеності і не було пробачень Путіну.
So there were
Does
no
the United
apologies to
States have your
Putin.
back?
There's going to have to be apologies to Putin, I think. Oops. Advertisements. Does it? That kind of looks like, this looks cool. What is this? What is this, like World of Tanks or something? World of Warships?
Skip it.
Навіть в моїй цій паузі.
So he's like, oh, you know, is the United States. Okay, well, let's just for a second, because I think this is kind of important. Because they even do a dramatic pause, right? So watch.
Does the United States have your back?
Does the United States have your back?
Навіть в моїй цій паузі
Even in this
є,
pause of mine,
є проблема.
there is a problem.
Тому що я дуже хочу відповідати на
Because
такі
I
питання,
really want to
правдиво і
answer
швидко.
such questions
Що Сполучені Штати
quickly and
наш
truthfully that yes,
стратегічний,
they
важливий,
are our
сильний партнер.
strategic and important,
ця пауза
strong
це
partner. But the pause,
сумнів.
the hesitation,
Я не
that
сумніваюся,
is
що
doubt.
люди Америки з
I
нами.
do not doubt that American
Але
people
доки
are
ми забуваємо,
are with us. By the way, you should be doubting it because the American people are sick of your shit.
це багато речей, багато.
But a long war, forgetting many things, many
І-
details.
І я би хотів би, щоб от цей момент ми пройшли, і
I would
паус
like
не у мене, а у таких, як я, у громадян України,
I'd like for this pause. That's just not my pause. Many Ukrainians have this pause,
і
right?
інших в Європі. Повірте, війна в Україні,
and-
але в Європі всі бояться, що Сполучені Штати можуть віддалятися від Європи.
That-
Це безумовно.
See, like this pause, it's not just me. I'm pausing, but it's giving pause to people like me. It's giving pause in Europe. Is the United States going to be backing away?
Yes.
Сполучених Штатів. І ніхто
Like,
не тисне. і
pretty
не
clear to
робить
me.
тиск. І це неможливо.
No one is pressuring. No one will pressure.
Тиснути на Америку. Це дуже
It
сильна
is
країна.
impossible to pressure
Ми
America.
поважаємо і
Such a
вдячні
strong
американському народу.
country.
Я
We
всім
respect and we're grateful to the
Yeah.
American people. See, look what he's doing
I
here.
don't
He's
know.
trying-
China seems to be doing a pretty good job of it these days.
No, but look,
Um,
here's what I think he's doing right here. This moment I think is important. I think what he's doing is he's going back through all of the whole spiel where JD Vance was like, have you even said thanks once, right? So he's trying to basically address that whole thing. Like that interview has been he's been coached for this. So he's addressing that. I think here, watch.
Хто не тисне і не буде тиснути.
No one
і
is
це
pressuring the
неможливо.
United States. Like, remember when Trump was like, "You don't tell us how we're going to feel." He's like, "Oh, no one's trying to, tell the United States how they're going to feel. Nobody can pressure them, right? It's
Тиснути на
impossible to
Америку. Це
pressure
дуже
America.
сильна країна.
What a strong
І ми
country, okay?
поважаємо і
Trump's
вдячні
strong,
американському
America's
народу.
strong, right? We
Всім
love
вдячні.
American people. We're so
Вдячні
grateful,
президентам,
grateful,
і вдячні
grateful,
і
grateful,
Конгресу, і
grateful to
всім
the president,
багатопартійній
grateful to the
системі.
Congress,
Але
grateful
okay,
to
I
the
get it. I get
bipartisan
it.
system.
Please don't
Guess
read
what?
it to me.
You know what?
I'm trying to
I'm
read it
not.
myself.
But I'm not grateful to the bipartisan system. Like he's literally what he's saying to me here is he's grateful to the deep state in a way, right? He's grateful to everybody, to American people, president this, president that, but the most important thing is that I think is that he says here, right?
Конгресу і всі
The
багатопартійні
Congress,
системи.
the entire bipartisan system. Sorry, I'll stop reading it. I swear. I thought this was a really important part.
Але я просто хотів би
Sorry, but yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, nothing. I was just trying to read it myself there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not getting anything
I'm
out of
sorry.
this guy 6 minutes in. Like he's talking over himself.
Yep. Well, I think this part he's like overcoached or something. He's trying to address like too many things at once, I think. But that, like I said, this is why they cut the interview down so much. But okay, let's keep going.
Не тільки знати, що Америка нас підтримує, а я б дуже хотів це відчувати. Ми б хотіли, щоб це відчуття нікуди не пішло.
Can you do without the United States?
Я думаю, що
Fuck
без
no.
Сполучених Штатів ми будемо нести багато втрат. Людських і територіальних. Можуть бути такі втрати. Ми, безумовно, без Сполучених Штатів буде складно мати саме ту ціль, бажану ціль, якнайшвидше закінчити війну і мати справедливий мир. І швидше закінчення, і справедливий мир буде складно зробити
Pause for a second.
без Сполучених.
I keep hearing like from dickheads like this guy, or numbnuts like Starmer, or fruitcakes like Macron about this whole notion of a just peace, but they never define what just peace means. To them, just peace means that Russia withdraws, they hang Putin in Red Square, Russia gets balkanized and has to pay all sorts of reparations to Ukraine. That's to them is what a just peace is. But like to anybody who's the least bit realistic or pragmatic, like what is this guy talking about? A just peace? He's the loser. Yeah,
Just
he's not the one to dictate terms at all.
it's a way of saying no. It's by saying just peace, then he gets to say, "Oh, but a just peace can't possibly include that." And they do start to touch up on some of the stuff in this interview.
Well, you know what I would say. Like, I think the Russians, to be honest with you,
Hmm.
the Russians have been way too patient with this bunch. Like, if I was Lavrov or
I think
Putin,
so.
if I was Lavrov or Putin, like you know, they could have their negotiation with Trump and the Americans over whatever commercial deals or whatever. That's one thing. But when it comes to these Europro twits like Starmer and Macron, oh, I wouldn't be treating them with respect whatsoever. Medvedev has got the right idea. Putin doesn't. Right? If I was Putin, I would just say, send troops in. We're going to kill them all. We're going to dictate terms to you guys because you have all lost. And that's what the Russians need to start saying to people. They need to start saying it all the time. NATO has lost because they're not doing that. But they need to start doing that. They need to start, you know, making it so it'll sink into people's heads. Yeah, we've lost. We've lost this one. We need to learn from it and move on.
I think that they are being delicate about not wanting, because it's very important in diplomacy to give people a way to save face, especially somebody like Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump wants
Um,
to be able to say, this is Biden's war, and he said it over and over again, even though he's taken it upon himself already, slowly, right? They
yeah, but
still,
I no, I agree with you, but I think with respect to Trump, I think he's already moved on. Like I think he's already if you notice when he first got in the office, it was all this is Biden's war, we're going to stop it, we're going to stop it.
mhm.
And then he started trying to negotiate. And then he realized that the Russians weren't playing ball. And then he had a temper tantrum and but now he's back to this is Biden's war. So I think for a little while there anyway, you know, Trump really kind of deviated from that message, but I think he's back on the message now because he realizes that the Russians aren't going to bend. So I think with respect to Putin and whatnot, yes, you're right. There has to be a certain bit of diplomacy, but they're not afforded the same thing on the other side. So no, I think Putin needs to come out and be very blunt. NATO has lost. Lavrov needs to be very blunt. NATO has lost. The terms will be dictated to you. That's how wars end, right?
I think they're running at, they think they have that level of exasperation with the Europeans at this point. I think at this point they're basically saying, listen, there's nobody reasonable to speak with in Europe. In America, we can slowly maybe come to some agreements, at least we can have some discussions and stuff. But Europe, these guys are completely bonkers. They're like captured by the Chihuahua states, right? Like the notorious problem where you let these guys in and now they're you know, now it's the tail wagging the dog. But anyway, we're only 7 minutes into this interview. Let's keep going.
Без Сполучених Штатів більше втрат. Це факт. Тому все-таки я б не хотів би розглядати такий варіант. Але це наша доля, наша земля, наше життя. Тим чи іншим шляхом ми закінчимо цю війну. Це правильно. Ми закінчимо і зробимо все, щоб мир був справедливий для нас. Немає іншого виходу. І не може бути по-іншому.
What does a just peace look like?
There you go.
Okay, cool. Let's see.
Look, it has the entire world on edge, so much so that even fucking YouTube knows this is the time to put in an
Mozzarella stuff.
advertisement. Mozzarella is the way to
Mozzarella's
go.
better.
Ну, сьогодні
Screw the
Agreed.
Dutch.
безумовно не втратити нашу суверенітет і
We
нашу
will
незалежність.
definitely not lose our sovereignty, number one.
Ми все одно
And
повернемо
our
все своє,
independence.
що ми не
By the way, they
втрачали.
lost it already.
А русські
And we will still return everything that we did not lose. I don't know if you knew this, Nanya, but it turns out that there has not been a war going on. The Russians have not been taking chunks of Ukraine. The Ukrainians have not been losing men, material, territory. They did not lose. But the
Okay, cool.
забрали у
Russians
нас.
took them. Oh, wait.
Temporarily.
Excuse me. You did not lose them, but did I hear that correctly?
Суверенітет і нашу незалежність.
We did not lose our sovereignty, our
Ми
independence.
все одно повернемо все своє, що
We will
ми не
return what
втрачали.
we did not lose.
русські
First of all, how can you return it if you didn't lose it?
Забрали у нас.
But the Russians took it away,
Тимчасово
temporarily
окуповані
occupied
території. І
from
я
us.
розумію, що це велика складність, історичний виклик. Все повернеться. Бажано, щоб дипломатичним шляхом, безумовно, не хочеться втрачати людей. Повернути людей неможливо.
Is
І
it possible
це
to return people?
безповоротні втрати, і ця кількість військових, цивільних, дітей, дорослих. І в будь-якому форматі закінчення війни
Cats,
це
dogs.
ніхто не пробачить.
So he's hinting about what I was saying before. It was like, we've lost. So like your kid died for this, and your dad, and your uncle, and your brother. Everybody died for this guy's not so freaking vision, because they were a bunch of Ukrainian fascists that decided that they were going to wrestle Ukraine away permanently from the Russian influence and permanently side with the West. Well, they're not going to forgive the fact that everything that they worked for, all of those deaths, were in vain. Yeah, they won't. That's right. You are a war criminal. You did murder
Як би не говорили
millions.
дипломати, який би одяг вони на зустрічах не надягали, що б не відбувалося в майбутньому, безумовно будуть перемовини, безумовно вони будуть різні, і трьохсторонні, і двосторонні, різні формати будуть. Ми дійдемо до дипломатичного вирішення цієї війни. Бо Путін не
I
може
find it interesting that he's talking about diplomacy, given that,
Right.
that for the last 3 years they haven't, so much as been willing to pick up the phone and talk to Putin. And this guy in particular created a law that made it illegal for them to negotiate with Putin. So
Good
what is he
point.
talking about? Like, what? He's a clown.
Yeah, what diplomacy? Are you serious?
купувати.
He,
Like,
see,
it's illegal.
he requires,
Right.
they assume your ignorance about this. Like, they assume that you don't know this. Like, they're laying it out
Well,
to the Americans, just reasserting everything.
keep in mind, right? Like, look at the channel, look at the program. This is 60 Minutes on CBS.
Yeah.
The average viewing age for this program is probably 75 years old. Nobody watches 60 Minutes. Nobody watches CBS. This is the biggest audience they've probably had in decades.
Yeah, you know what? Probably.
Чає сил деокупувати все. І це зрозуміла ситуація на сьогодні.
We will deoccupy.
І
Yeah,
тому
you will.
дипломатично ця війна закінчиться. Ми не визнаємо території руськими, ті, які тимчасово окуповані. Вони будуть тиснути на нас і через США, і через деяких партнерів. Вони будуть хотіти, щоб ми визнали. Ми не визнаємо це. Ми повернемо, коли і як. Я не можу сьогодні сказати, але це ціль. Справедливість. Це буде, я вважаю, в кінці кінців найскладніше. Бо, як я й сказав, території повернуть люди або час. А ось втрати людські повернути не можна. Тому можна зробити тільки одне, єдине. Це справедливість. Тобто,
Oh, don't worry.
вбив,
Last estimate, it was only 40,000 or something, wasn't it? Isn't that what he said? Ukraine had only
Yeah.
lost 40,000. So Zelensky, it's not that big of a deal. It's not the million that everybody
it
else
went up.
reports. It's only
think it went up.
40,000.
I think it went up. I think he said there was a more recent one where somebody said 70,000.
Oh.
It's still absurd figures. But yeah, I mean, for him to be able to say this is not about, this is about principle. The only thing that can be done for fairness, for justice. Zelensky's all of a sudden, you won't believe this, concerned about justice, the most corrupt little tin pot dictator of the most corrupt country in the entire world, that has mansions all over the world, that has than the Ukrainian meat or the Russian meat grinder with Ukrainian lives, right? This guy is all of a sudden out of nowhere concerned about justice. Look at this moral spine that he's all of a
Тобто
sudden
хтось
grown.
I just have
вбивці,
to say, for the
коли
record, I really hope a missile meets him and his family very soon.
Oh man, dude,
That's all. I really
that's
do. Like, people like him don't deserve to live. Fuck him. Fuck his family.
I don't hope that. I hope that he can stand trial and justice and can be
He'll
served.
never stand trial. You know that. Like, it'd be better off for somebody just to drop a
Well,
bomb
I
on
mean,
his
if we're
head.
talking about fantastical scenarios, I have a fantastical scenario too. It would be awesome if he stood trial.
повинен за це відповідати. Це буде
Nah, his trial will be at the
найсмішніший
hands of
виклик.
one of his very own. Trust me. Some
Yeah, most
Ukrainians
likely
think
it's going to
no.
be one of those
If the
fascists.
if the Russians don't kill him, like sometime soon, I think a Ukrainian's gonna wipe him out. Like, he's more hated in Ukraine than anywhere at this point, right? He's a dead man walking. I think.
Well, on that, I more or less agree with you. I think that he is basically a dead man walking.
Чесно, я так вважаю. Тому що всі будуть шукати можливості з наших партнерів, можливості тих чи інших компромісів з русскими. І,
Compromise with the
безумовно,
Russians. Oh,
а ми не можемо відпустити питання справедливості.
we can't let
Зараз
go of
просто
the
треба,
issue of
щоб
justice.
платили.
Negotiations, yes, but what about justice, Zelensky? What
Oh,
are you talking about?
That's not what he said, though. He said, they want us to negotiate with the Russians, but we can't. That's what he
Yes,
said. He said we can't,
yes,
because of all this murder.
yeah, all the we need justice, right? But at the same time, he also said we want to negotiate. He's contradicting himself all over the place.
Сплачували ті, хто вбивав. Це правильно.
The White House has announced partial ceasefires, but they haven't taken effect. Why?
When I started drinking warm.
Oh my goodness, dude. It
I
sucks that
pissed
my other
myself
browser,
that night.
and it felt
Передусім,
nice.
не можна вірити Путіну. Про це я говорив президенту Трампу неодноразово. Домовленості повинні бути такими, щоб у людини, яка не хоче закінчення війни, а це є Путін, і це є факт, і по результату
Putin does not want to end the war. This is
цього
the fact. Oh,
ceasefire
I could have thought you didn't
або
want to end the
часткового
war.
ceasefire,
The result of a
по
ceasefire, a
кількості
partial
порушень
ceasefire.
всього цього, ви можете чітко це підкреслити, що Путін не хоче закінчення війни. Тому з людини, яка не хоче закінчити війни, повинні бути побудовані такі домовленості, щоб у нього була безвихідь.
How are you
Якщо
going
це
to
ceasefire,
wait? How are you going to pull that off? Oh my gosh, how are you going to pull that off from a position of weakness, negotiating with the Russians who are winning the war? What a fantastic scenario you've come up with, Zelensky. His
And
imagination is strong as ever.
And wouldn't this be wonderful questions for that useless interviewer to ask him, right? He's got a world leader here, and he's throwing him these powder puff questions, not asking him any sort of follow-ups to fairly obvious questions. He's this is why nobody watches 60 Minutes.
This is
Nobody
the reason
watches
why
mainstream.
nobody watches them. Yep, everybody can see through it.
Треба домовлятись про повний ceasefire, хоча ми готові були і до часткового. І ми готові до будь-якого формату. Чому?
Says Ukraine that they were ready for a partial ceasefire, even though they were the ones that were violating the ceasefire on energy infrastructure hits.
Тому що ми
The
бачимо,
very next day.
Yep.
може дати можливість перейти до дипломатичного треку. Але Путін цього не хоче. Так ось, щоб був безумовний ceasefire, це єдиний формат. Безумовний ceasefire говорить, що це
So you see, unilateral ceasefire is the only format. So what is he saying? He's pushing his line again. Unilateral ceasefire, Brits come in, French come in, people come in, blah 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 blah. Right? They're trying to do the thing again.
це можна
He's not taking a
So-
step back.
So for the record, the 1 month ceasefire, I believe it ended yesterday. And Russia formally announced that the ceasefire had ended. So, but to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the Russians had honored the ceasefire terms. They didn't attack any energy infrastructure
No,
for
they
the
did.
entire month. Oh, did they?
But
Okay.
but the Ukrainians that did attack Russian energy infrastructure repeatedly, causing millions of dollars of damage, basically accused the Russians of doing it to themselves, and then they accused the Russians of doing this. Like Naftogaz said facilities were hit, but they never provided any evidence. They just kind of said it, and then
No, I know that the Ukrainians hit their infrastructure a bunch of times, but are you sure that the Russians hit Ukrainian
no, I'm
infrastructure? I
saying they
hadn't
did.
read
I'm
that.
saying they were not. They were actually
Oh
holding
yeah,
on.
yeah.
But the
Okay, yeah. No,
Ukrainians
you're
were
right.
blaming them regardless. The Ukrainians
Yeah.
were still, it didn't matter to them. They were still, it's as if nothing happened, right?
Сполучені Штати завдяки технічним можливостям своїм та партнерів Британії, Франції тощо можуть контролювати чітко зрив або не зрив, припинення вогню. Повний. Якщо це буде частково, Путін завжди буде гратись над тим, що хтось вистрілив, а ми ось тут ми не ті дрони, а вони взяли ракети, а то були не далекобійна зброя, а вона коротка, тощо буде багато бла-бла-бла на цю тематику тощо. Тому ми і казали, що пропозиція Сполучених Штатів безумовне припинення вогню спрацює, якщо Сполучені Штати поставлять чітко таку умову, чітка кількість днів, термін часу і чітко хто моніторить. Моніторить ceasefire. Конкретно, хто це буде робити. І якщо США вже обрали для себе лідируючу роль посередника в цьому, вони, маючи всі інструменти для контролю, можуть це моніторити 100%.
So he's saying, put American troops on the ground, right? American monitors on the
Right.
ground.
Only problem with that is the Americans have zero interest in doing so, number one. And secondly, the Russians obviously wouldn't agree to it. So
Yeah, exactly. But Zelensky, you're missing the point of a proxy. You're supposed to die instead of us.
Putin says that a full ceasefire will require the Ukrainian military to disarm, a guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO, and you have to go.
That's all reasonable. That's all reasonable.
Передусім, Путін не може нічого вимагати. І ця позиція повинна йти навіть не
But it's kind of what happens, you see, when you win a war. Sometimes you make demands. And
well, he's right. Putin can't demand anything, but at the end of the day, Russia's going to achieve their goals. So either you're willing to negotiate and end the war, or you're not, right? So
it's delusional to say the Russians are not in a position to demand anything. The Russians are in a position to demand the demilitarization, the denazification, the ouster of Zelensky. They're in the position to demand a lot. And right now what's happening is, while the Russian steamroller, the lava flow is going, right? Like, we're trying to do what we can to get ahead of it, but like, this delusion is increasingly obvious to everybody. Everybody increasingly can see this. Like you said, it takes a 60 minutes audience of 75-year-olds to come away from this with thinking that this has anything to actually absorb this information, as if they're listening to a world leader, a powerful world leader, tell them about the truth about how the world really is. Meanwhile, even CBS didn't have this whole interview translated. You have to get auto translations in order for you to be able to read that. And this video is being made fun of. It's universally derided that it's of how out of touch he is. So that shows you.
It also shows how woefully out of touch the folks at 60 Minutes are, right? Like,
well, look at his age. Look at the age of what's his face.
Well, and like, who cares what this guy's got to say in 2025? You know what I mean? Like, I guess they're pandering to an old, declining audience, and this is what sells. I don't know. Even a 75-year-old, I don't think a
I don't
75-year-old
think
would
it's
want to
what
watch this
sells.
guy.
I don't think it's
No,
what sells. I think it's the propaganda narrative. They're laying it out. They're just laying it out. They're rewriting history. They're saying this is the way that it is. Just
but
accept it.
who's running the back end though? Because we know it's not Trump and team, right? Like, if this was Biden co, then you could say, okay, yeah, the deep state has got all the mainstream media and they're, playing their narrative. But Trump's not playing that
Well,
game.
I think these guys
No.
are believers. I think that people at CBS over there, I think they're believers. Yeah, Trump might not
Uh,
be there, but Trump's not quote unquote their president, you know. So
I
Від нас.
suspect that the Democrats are still running the show in the back end. That's what I think.
А від Сполучених Штатів Америки. Тому що ceasefire, безумовне, в тому і сенс цього припинення вогню. Безумовне. Путін не може ставити будь-які умови нам, а ми не можемо ставити будь-які умови русським. Хоча у нас багато є умов до них, бо вони прийшли з війною на нашу землю і вони вбивають нас тут, у нас вдома. Але ми погодились, це компроміс. Це компроміс. Давайте перейдемо до дипломатії. Треба такий серйозний компроміс. В тому, що ми навіть не будемо знати, що буде в майбутньому. Без гарантій безпеки на сьогодні, ще не розуміючи інфраструктуру, гарантій безпеки для нас. І йти на цей компроміс і Сполучені Штати Америки, що вони зробили? Сполучені Штати Америки припинили
throw in security guarantees, infrastructure rebuilding, just
нам допомогу, заморозили її, і обмін розвідданим, знаючи, що для нас дуже боляче буде. Удари
that was like
балістичні, не
temporary. That was a
розуміючи, що
temporary
йде
pause.
навала ракет русських по нашим цивільним.
For like a week.
І ми, знаючи, що це зупинено, і ми чуємо, що це умова, що воно розблокується, якщо Україна піде на безумовне припинення вогню. Що зробили ми? Ми сказали, ми йдемо на безумовне припинення вогню. І тут у мене питання, як у президента. Мені заблокували щось і сказали, йди. Інакше ми не розблокуємо. І у тебе будуть втрати і зброї, і допомоги, і розвідданих. У мене питання. Що Сполучені Штати Америки зробили дзеркальне у бік русських? Іди на припинення вогню, інакше ось тобі санкційний пакет. Ось і я ввожу дуже сильний санкційний пакет.
It's not
Але
gonna
якщо
work.
бути чесними і справедливими, то нам заблокували, а потім запропонували. Русським запропонували. І нічого не блокували. Тобто, коли
That's
ми
because
говоримо
of the
про
disparity in the position of your relative nations, like the relative positions of your nations. Like Donald Trump was telling you, Zelensky, you
Well-
don't have the cards. With us, you have some cards.
Well, that's the thing. Like for a guy who claims that he wants to be, such a great diplomat, he doesn't seem to know how the world works. And at the end of the day, the Russians hold the cards. They've got all the leverage in this because, frankly, they don't trade with the United States. They barely trade with Europe now.
They're self-sufficient.
They're self-sufficient and they're winning the war. Like there's absolutely no leverage that the West has over them. So
That's before we put into the mix BRICS, China,
right.
all that. So
Yeah, forgetting all that, right? Just as a standalone country, they've got nothing over Russia. So like the fact that he is either blind to that or just playing ignorant to it, it's not very helpful for his country's cause, I don't think.
at all, in any way.
мир через силу, вибачте, виходить так,
Peace
що
through
мир через
strength.
силу працює в один бік. І тільки в наш. І я
How
вважаю,
could it be that peace through strength works only in our in our direction? Because we can't do shit to the Russians, Zelensky. We have nothing on them.
що це несправедливий підхід. І тому, на ваше запитання, чому не працює ceasefire? Ось чому не працює.
Why is it not
Путін
working?
ніколи не хотів
Because Putin
закінчити
didn't
війну.
want to end the
Путін не
war.
хотів нашої незалежності.
He
Путін
didn't want
хотів
our
нас всіх
independence.
знищити.
Not because we violated it. No, not because of that. Why did the ceasefire fail? Because Putin didn't want our independence and Putin wanted to destroy us.
Наш суверенітет, наших людей, не хочу говорити про красномовні слова, але тим не менш. А Сполучені Штати повинні були дати сильний крок. І ми ще на це дуже сильно надіємось. І надіємось, що будуть умови у бік Росії, а не у бік України.
You seem to have a real hatred of
Deluded.
Vladimir Putin.
Watch what
That's
pegs
delusional,
do
dude.
to your
Delusional. Like, we're hoping that the pressure will come from the United States onto the Russians. Yeah, well, you know what? Hope dies last, and it's probably going to outlive you then.
Путіна 100% ненависть.
How much do you hate Putin?
Hatred of Vladimir Putin.
How much?
Путіна 100% ненависть.
100%
Навіть
hatred.
не 99,9.
Dun dun dun.
Але це не значить, що ми не повинні працювати над тим, щоб закінчити війну.
Right. The reason that they can't go forward and try to end the war is not because Zelensky personally hates Putin, not 99.9%, but 100%. It is because Zelensky put in a law that does not allow the Ukrainians to negotiate with the Russians. So yeah, Zelensky,
Як
good on
можна
you.
швидше, щоб перейти до дипломатичного треку? А як можна відноситись до людини, яка прийшла до нас, вбивала дітей? Ми зараз в бомбосховищі школи. Ми в бомбосховищі школи. Отак тепер навчаються наші діти. Ми в школі, де ці 3 дитинки загинули. Ці 3 дитини були з цієї школи. Останній удар. Як можна відноситись до Путіна? Мені здається, йому все одно, чесно кажучи, як відносяться українці до нього. І, якщо чесно, йому все одно, як до нього люди відносяться. І все. Я вважаю, що він живе в іншому світі.
It's more like what they think about him.
Yeah, I just want to say, remember they organized that terror attack at that mall in Moscow? Like, he forgets all this stuff, right? So,
Or 8 years of bombing the Donbass where children were living in basements and not going to schools. Like it's completely just steamrolling it. He's rewriting history.
like I said,
Absolutely.
missile on his head. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Світі, в якому
Some
йому
people just don't
комфортно.
deserve to live.
Чим довше
He's one
він
of them.
в
You know?
ньому, тим він звик до цього комфорту. Ну, все.
And when you see the Trump administration opening relations with Russia, having meetings with Russia, talking about business opportunities with
And when you
Russia, what do you
see, when you notice the disastrous outbreak of impending diplomacy between the world's 2 preeminent nuclear superpowers, what do you start to think, Zelensky?
think?
Я просто, може, я не така прагматична
Maybe
людина.
I'm not such a pragmatic
Але
person. Yeah, we know that.
я не вважаю, що з вбивцями
But I
треба
don't think
вести
that
бізнес.
killers need to do business.
Для мене не все одно, з ким вести бізнес.
Okay, and then look at this. Look what he's going to say here. For me personally, it doesn't matter who I do business with. This is really telling.
Я сам із бізнесу.
I'm from the business world myself.
Я прийшов із бізнесу.
Came from the business world.
Для мене ніколи не було в моєму бізнесі все одно.
It never mattered in my business who I make money with. Do you understand how to?
Просто, може, це моє відношення.
This is just my
І мені
attitude.
все одно, яким чином.
I don't care how
заробляти
to
гроші. І
make
мені
money.
все одно,
And I
скільки
don't
людей
care
навколо
how many
постраждає
people around me
через
suffer.
ті чи інші контракти. Для мене successful story of business – це не тільки коли у партнерів щось вийшло, а ще й коли навколо люди щасливі, це щось їм приносить. Коли робітники в твоєму бізнесі щасливі, вони посміхаються.
So you said 2 things at once again. It's like first, like I don't care who we make business with. Like, I'll make
I
business
don't
with
know.
anyone.
Yeah, but I really don't understand how this is germane to anything.
Because he's basically admitting, like, look, I will freaking make a deal with the devil. Like, you make, I will make money with anybody, and this has always
Right.
been my career. And right now, he's doing that. And you know where he's making his money. You know where his bread is buttered. He's admitting it. I know where my bread is buttered. I'm willing to make that deal.
Вони вдячні, що вони є джерелом натхнення цих успіхів. Вони відчувають себе командою. Тому для мене бізнес між Сполученими Штатами Америки і русскими, якщо чесно, це вибір Сполучених Штатів Америки. І я до цього гарно не ставлюся. Але я поважаю суверенітет Америки і суверенний вибір Сполучених Штатів. Тож я просто вважаю, що якщо у тебе сильні бізнес-відносини з русскими, які вбивають українців, і я вважаю, що ну все-таки люди передусім, люди найбільша цінність. Тому мені здається, що пріоритети повинні бути в іншому виставлятись. Спочатку треба Путіна поставити на місце, а потім з ним мати
First, we need to put Putin in his place.
Знов таки, якщо ви хочете.
And then have some kind of economic
Це не
relationship
ті
with him.
гроші, які принесуть
Good
щастя.
luck with that.
Can you
Who's
tell?
going to put Putin in his place, Zelensky? You and what army? Not the AFU. That hasn't happened.
Well,
an American parent?
I don't know what he's talking about. Like, you know, he's talking about Americans and Russians forming business relationships, and you know, everybody wants to make money.
He's
Sure,
saying
great.
2 things at once again.
But,
He's
But then what he also says, like he's saying, but basically what he's saying is Americans also need to think about all the Ukrainians dying. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Like, if I'm making a business deal with somebody, I'm not going to say, oh, hold on a second. The people in Ghana are dying, and you were somehow involved in some sort of business arrangement in Ghana. Therefore, I can't make an agreement with you. Like, who cares? Like, nobody cares about your feelings,
Well,
Zelensky. Nobody cares.
he's asking him because see what Zelensky can't do is he can't repeat the disastrous mistake where he told Trump, quote unquote, right, how Trump felt. He told the Americans how they're going to feel. He's like saying, no, America is big and strong and stuff like that, and you guys can make a deal with anybody because he's asking him, should America be making this deal, right? And he's saying no, but he can't say it that way. So he's saying like you got to think about the morality, about the lives, about the people. Don't think about the fact that I'm sending 1 million Ukrainians to their deaths. Shut up, shut up, shut up. We got to think about the ethics of business right now. And even though I just admitted that I will always make money with everybody, this is the whole rambling thing. He must be, I don't know what he's on here. I don't know because he says two contradicting things constantly.
Yeah. Cocaine. He will trade with Colombia.
Can you tell an American parent what it's like to send your child to school in a bomb shelter?
На сьогодні, ви знаєте, що на сьогодні для цих дітей,
The
які
kids
йдуть
in
в
Donetsk
безпеці,
can.
вже інша стадія. Для них це
Oh
щастя
yeah.
бачити інших дітей. Мати соціальний простір. Просто спілкуватися. Але
Who
якщо
was it?
ти
Who
подивишся,
was it? Poroshenko, who famously said that the kids in Donetsk will be cowering in their basements.
Yeah, the kids when involved will go to school and their kids will be in basements. Nowadays, they try to say that quote is taken out of context, but I actually watched that whole speech and it is not taken out of context. He was really saying like screw them.
Well, that's another guy, Poroshenko. The guy tries to escape Ukraine every 2 weeks. He keeps getting caught.
Well, Poroshenko, like Zelensky's paranoid about Poroshenko. He does not want Poroshenko. He thinks of him as one of his potential main rivals. I don't know how possible that is, but I mean, we know he's got money, so he's got oligarch backing too. So I'm sure that Poroshenko is still a potential contender, especially since Zelensky probably has to go. So.
Тобто, це діти під землею. Діти навчаються просто під землею.
Children underground. Children study simply underground.
У них не буде можливості в цілому
They have
бачити
under the ground because otherwise they will not have the opportunity.
Розумієте, це великі страждання, моральні. Всі діти подорослішали. Абсолютно. У всіх дітей дорослі очі. Я вже не говорю про технічні речі, що це все одно небезпечно, що рівень освіти падає, що діти в бомбосховищах вони хворіють, більш хворіють, тому що вони повинні бути на вулиці, вони повинні бачити сонце, бачити щастя, дитинство своє бачити.
Yeah, right. Now he cares.
Вони заслуговують, тільки заслужили на це через те, що їх країна бореться за виживання і бореться за те, щоб ці діти не стали русскими. Вони не хочуть. Вони просто хочуть бути тим, хто вони є.
Why can you not stop these missile attacks against your civilians?
Because we suck.
This is the quickest way.
Why can you not stop the missile attacks against your civilians? Because we are out of Russian air defense systems, and U.S. air defense systems are expensive, and they are not available in sufficient quantity.
She's got some really stuck poop, though.
Who that? The advertisement chick? Oh my god, I was not paying attention. I do not. I hate being advertised to. I do not watch advertisements. This is the only reason why is because I was having issues with a different browser.
Протиповітряної оборони. У нас недостатньо цих систем. Я вдячний всім партнерам за те, що вже нам давали. Але, знаєте, я не хочу жалітися. Ми вдячні Сполученим Штатам за те, що нам надали багато.
See, again, this has been like the 6th time. It's like, of course I have to reiterate. Thank you, United States. Thank you. But it's not enough. Give us more.
Just a side note. Remember like 2 years ago, back when the Patriot systems were just impenetrable and they were impossible to blow up. And nowadays it's just like, yeah, we lost them all. Yeah, they all got destroyed. We need more. And how
Yeah,
the narrative just quickly changes, right?
yeah. I mean, and they tried to obfuscate it, but you know what? It with over time became obvious which story was accurate because we could see
Right.
that. But anyway,
Ми за все дякуємо.
we
Але
thank you for
коли діти
everything.
гинуть під
But think of the
обстрілами від
children
ракет і дорослі,
and give
всі,
us more shit.
всі люди. Так, мені чесно, я не розумію, чому ми не можемо домовитись про додаткові системи Петрі. Тим більше, що домовленість така на саміті в НАТО в Вашингтоні, на
Patriot
ювілейному
systems.
саміті була. І ми так і не отримали ті додаткові системи Патріот. І особливо я поважаю вибір Сполучених Штатів Америки, але коли Сполучені Штати такі системи нам не дали або не продали, ми готові на будь-який формат. Питання не в грошах, і деякі європейські партнери вони готові допомагати фінансово, щоб ми могли отримати відповідні системи, дороговартісні. Але Сполучені Штати кажуть, що сьогодні немає можливості, але в цей час вони передають такі системи, наприклад, Ізраїлю. Я не про те, що Ізраїлю це не потрібно, тощо. Але
That's because we have favorites.
якщо ми справедливі партнери, невже не можна знайти
You're not fair partners. You never were.
Yeah, we have favorites, number one, and number two, Americans like winners and they hate losers. And Israel is like, even though they're committing a genocide, they're winning. And you have people like Donald Trump that goes like, they're winning. Israel is winners. And
It
you
all
have
goes
people.
back to if we're fair partners, none of these people get that they're not partners, right? There's no such thing as a partner.
You
So
are a
they're not
vassal.
partners. Yes, you're a vassal. That's it. You're a proxy. That's all. Like the sooner you realize that, Zelensky, the better off you'll be. He knows this. Of
At
course,
this
he
point,
knows
he
this.
must know
His
at this
bank
point.
account, of course, his bank account knows it, right? If he wants to go buy Patriot systems, maybe check that Panamanian bank account as his, right? With all those billions. Maybe
Yeah,
he
well,
can
they won't sell it to him
go.
because he said the money. The issue's not in the money. Yeah, the issue is in the fact that they just don't have them.
Well, what are you asking the United States for?
More stuff.
Система ППО. Нічого більше не просимо. Ми просимо
Anti-air systems.
систему ППО, пакет з новою зброєю, яка нам потрібна захистити себе, ми передавали Сполученим Штатам Америки, президенту Трампу, я по телефону і різними форматами на різному рівні ми передавали цей пакет, ми готові купувати, ми готові купити, заплатити за цей пакет. Ми обговорювали з європейськими партнерами, які готові разом з нами фінансувати відповідні пакети.
We're ready to buy him with the Europeans.
He reiterated this twice already. We have money. We have the money. We will give you the money.
Doesn't. Zelensky doesn't have the money. Do you know who Zelensky is? He's the political equivalent to Cousin Eddie from the National Lampoon's movies. Remember Christmas Vacation?
I've never
You've never
watched.
seen those?
Okay.
Yeah.
Never even.
Zelensky is Cousin Eddie. He's Cousin Eddie. That's it. He's just this deadbeat beggar.
I gotta get up to date on that reference. You should send me like a clip or something so I could. But anyway.
So you're referring to cost about $1.5 billion for each system. You're talking about paying for them. You're not asking for a donation.
Я сказав дуже чітко президенту Трампу, що ми можемо зробити. Є система Patriot.
What a ridiculous question. What a preposterous question. This shows you how much this is just nothing but nonsense propaganda. You are talking about paying for these systems. With whose money, dumbass? Where is he getting the money to pay for this stuff, right?
He said the Europeans. He said that previously.
He does. He said the Europeans, right? He's what he's saying is, hold up, he's making it seem like we have money burning a hole in our pocket instead of the actual problem. The actual problem is not the lack of money. Yeah, you could personally, somebody can become very wealthy and corrupted with and change their life completely with billions of dollars. But he said himself, the Patriot was $1 billion per system. They just aren't going to sell them. They just need them. They don't have enough even just for Saudi Arabia. They don't have enough of them. The issue is not with money. The issue is that I forgot how many rockets they make a year, but it's something like 300 rockets a year. I don't know how many launchers they make or how many they're incapable of making. It's not about the money. It's about, so this whole thing about we're ready to buy them.
І у вас їх багато. І у вас є виробництво. Є кілька кроків, як захистити Україну. Крок номер 1. Одна система, яка коштує 1,5 мільярди, ми готові купити, і нам потрібно хоча б 10 систем, щоб закрити
10 Patriot
кілька
systems.
цивільних.
I don't know how many they got. He says his victory plan, Zelensky's updated victory plan circa or version 2025. What do we need? Number 1, 10 Patriot systems worth that $15 billion worth of the highest end, not just high end, the highest end, extremely in demand military hardware that requires for United States personnel, service personnel to be operating them. So anyway,
Центри міст максимально
That's the
там,
first
де
thing.
багато скупчення людей. І це 15 мільярдів. Ми готові заплатити ці 15 мільярдів. Ми знайдемо ці гроші
We will
і
find
все будемо
15
сплачувати.
billion.
Другий варіант, який я
France will
просив
find this
зразу
money.
цієї адміністрації, і якщо
Yeah.
чесно, я просив і у Байдена адміністрації, не тільки у президента Трампа. Я просив дуже сильно. Ми знаємо, які черги, ми знаємо, як це складно. Ми знаємо, як складно замовити системи, замовити ракети, домовитись, їх придбати або отримати як допомогу. Я
Excuse
просив
me.
ліцензії на виробництво. Ліцензії на виробництво систем Patriot, ліцензії на виробництво відповідних ракет для цих систем.
He's nuts. He wants to have he wants to license production of Patriot systems.
Right.
Ми
In that factory that's just there, waiting for it, right?
Yeah, the one that's outside of the reach of Russian missiles. You know that one.
хотіли за це заплатити, мати ліцензії, і тоді вже розуміти, як, в який термін ми зможемо побудувати повністю систему закриття нашого неба. Тобто варіанти є різні. Є країни, скажу вам відверто, не буду їх називати, є країни в світі, як в Middle East, так і в Європі, в Азії, є країни, які мають системи, які належать Сполученим Штатам Америки. Тобто це не обов'язково, що Сполучені Штати Америки будуть віддавати тільки те, що стоїть в Сполучених Штатах Америки. Є країни,
Give
де
me.
розташовані системи
Take from
Patriot, де
somebody
немає
else. Give
ніяких
me.
військових дій. Вони можуть їх нам передати. Ми готові були навіть отримати їх як в оренду. Розумієте?
This is why I think, dude, this guy's a narcissist. He feels like he's entitled to the United States' equipment. And so he's like,
Well,
yeah, they got these Patriot systems over there, but they're your systems. So give me.
Oh, I read that as you've got systems that belong to, for example, the Saudis, and you could just get the Saudis to sell them to us or something. But no, you're probably right. Maybe it was that they're U.S. owned systems over in the Middle East. But regardless, like, who is this guy to start poking his fucking nose into, now he's poking his nose into Saudi Arabian business, or
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
some
He's
other.
like a narcissist. He's like a freaking narcissist. That's my theory. I think he's like a narcissist.
Like I said, needs a missile on his head. That's it.
Розуміючи, що якщо буде якийсь виклик у тієї чи іншої країни, якщо їм знадобиться дуже швидко повернути, ми повернемо. Форматів, як це забезпечити,
Sure you will.
багато. Бажання треба. І все.
There's that old
The US has
saying,
contributed
always trust a Ukrainian.
Yeah, right. To let you know exactly what's happening in Ukraine. They're definitely a reliable source of information, especially when the Ukrainians are being funded by USAID.
about $175 billion to Ukraine over these 3 years. What would you say that the American people have gotten for that money?
Dude, look how he freaking frames that question. Yeah,
Valid question. What have they gotten? Absolutely nothing, as best I can tell.
Передусім,
American people have gotten for that money.
передусім,
Like, stop for a sec. Let's answer that question before he does. I don't see where America has gained one single thing from this whole conflict, or Europe for that matter.
So here's my assessment. Number 1, we finally succeeded in severing the Russian-European energy relationship.
Okay, fair.
Number two, we were able to get 2 more countries into NATO, where it's been a long-term project to try to swing the population to want to do NATO, but they've right after that Russian invasion, the popularity spiked. They pushed it through. People didn't even realize what happened, right? 2 more countries in NATO. Um,
But
then
NATO pretty soon, right? So, like, who cares about that one?
I think the Russians care about that. Then they were able to double down in Syria. Finally with the Russians there with their hands tied in Ukraine, they went to Syria, they got it done. Um, and then yeah, I mean those are the 3 that stand out to me.
Well, the Syria thing, I think Russia had a hand in negotiating all that. So I think that one was a non-issue. But you're right about getting them to sever the oil and gas and business relationships. That was a huge loss. But the problem now is Europe doesn't seem to want to play ball with the U.S. either. So uh, they've kind of screwed themselves there.
Well,
And,
if this is the thing though. What options do they have? What are you going to go to China? They might hate America, but they don't. But they're freaking. I think they're like some. They're like fundamentally like racist. I think towards China. They don't want to be subordinate to the Chinese. They'd rather be subordinate to the Americans. They're happy. They've been happy to being subordinate to the Americans all this time. So I don't know.
I don't know. I don't see where any of this you can, other than I guess you could probably make some sort of argument that Russia has benefited from it because they've gained territory and whatnot, but they've also lost a whole lot of people and it's cost them a whole lot of money, etc. So you could make the argument, was it worth it or not? I'm not sure. Uh, but other than Russia potentially benefiting, on the other side, I just don't see where anybody's benefited from this thing. It's been a loser from day one, and
I wouldn't say the Americans as a whole, America as a whole benefited. I would say that certain factions benefited, right?
sure.
People that wanted to really, like I say, like let's even just go to like Germany, right? People in Germany that were like the Greens, they were empowered and they was personal for them. They wanted to sever this energy relationship with Russia, to some extent or whatever. Allegedly, there might have been like some knowledge and stuff, right, with this whole thing, and
All
uh,
right.
you end up just it's just a marriage of convenience at that point, right?
All right.
I
Let's see
guess.
what Numbnuts has to say.
Ми отримали біля
We're about halfway there.
100 мільярдів, реально біля 100 мільярдів, те, що ми отримали від Сполучених Штатів Америки.
First of all, it's only $100
Які ж
billion
гроші
of aid.
пішли на
I
транспортну
counted every penny.
техніку, отримали американські компанії-перевізники.
And they were
Далі
received by
багато
American
грошей
companies
Сполучених
anyway.
Штатів Америки з фінансування вони залишились в Європі. Вони фінансували ті чи інші офіси їх відповідних програм Сполучених Штатів Америки. Те, що заходило в Україну, це заходили гроші.
Yeah. Blame us for being corrupt, Zelensky. The
Keep
problem
going,
is
buddy.
with our corruption.
Біля 67, я вже не пам'ятаю, 65-67 мільярдів. І це була, заходила зброєю, грошима. Ми отримали десь 35 мільярдів підтримки нашого бюджету. Ми завжди вважали, що це наша спільна боротьба, що Україна захищає наші спільні цінності, і ми захищаємо всю Європу, і тому Європа також фінансувала. І на цей момент Європа дала приблизно стільки ж грошей, скільки дали і Сполучені Штати Америки, не уступаючи Сполученим Штатам Америки. Але я можу тільки подякувати народу Сполучених Штатів Америки за підтримку, серйозну підтримку. Так, дивіться, це найдешевший, я вважаю, варіант для Сполучених Штатів Америки – боротьба України. Тому що Україна захищала інші країни, в які Путін піде, і він хоче туди піти. І якщо він туди піде, я про це говорив, і люди повинні зрозуміти, це країни НАТО. І тоді інші країни НАТО, їм прийдеться захищати своїх союзників, бо є такі домовленості.
Just laying it
Але
out again.
вмирають сьогодні, при всій повазі до Сполучених Штатів Америки, до Європи, гинуть сьогодні українці. І тому я кажу, інші країни дають на захист своїх людей, дають нам зброю, наші люди гинуть. І наші люди захищають життя інших людей. І тому я і кажу, що це найдешевша ціна за захист.
What price have your people paid in the defense of Europe and the peace of the world?
These
Наші люди
questions,
заплатили
dude,
найбільшу ціну.
these aren't
Well,
even
a couple
questions.
things.
Немає
Just
більшої
pause for
ціни.
a sec. Couple things I want to say about that. Number one, he's talking about, we're defending you guys, so we're dying so your people don't have to. He forgets the point that nobody else is at war with Russia. So, like, people in France aren't a threat. So let's just quit that rhetoric. The other thing that I picked up on is, he's talking about. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What in the hell was I talking about? So the question was, what have the people in America gotten for their $100 billion? He didn't really answer the question other than saying, we're fighting for your values and we're fighting for Europe's values. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Last I checked, America and Europe are at odds with what, values are, because
Yeah,
you've
right.
got JD Vance off, berating the EU all the time, talking about how their values suck. So I'm not really sure whose values it is he's defending or if they're the right ones, because,
Think,
the West
think of it
doesn't
as
seem
a,
to agree.
I think of it as a dog whistle to the
Sure.
not Trump people. Like, hey man,
Well,
we're still over here fighting for your European liberal values.
this is the 75-year-old 60 Minutes audience, because they're all so stupid, because they're all no, I'm serious. The boomer generation, I believe, and I really do believe this. I've even said this to my mother. I said, I think you guys were all just horribly, horribly mentally just messed up during the Cold War. I believe this because back in the 60s, recall, like, you were diving under your desk, you had these nuclear drills, all this, it was constant fear. And I truly believe if you're a boomer, you are so mentally broken with respect to Russia and communism or whatever, right? Because you were diving under desks when you were 8 years old. So yeah, this is the values thing still might work for these 75-year-olds watching 60 Minutes. Doesn't work for anybody else.
Yeah, I agreed with that.
Наші люди віддали, ми віддали всі гроші.
We gave
Ми,
all of our money.
ми віддали
We
все,
gave
що у нас було
everything
з
we
точки зору
had.
фінансів. Ми віддали найголовніше людей.
And the most important thing in
Правильніше
terms of
сказати, русські
people.
забрали, тому що ніхто не хотів віддавати наших людей.
No,
8,5 мільйонів втратили своє життя, домівки, життя. 8,5 мільйонів переїхало за кордон. Це тільки ті мільйони, які виїхали за
8.5
кордон
million
України.
Ukrainians
Бігли.
gone
Їх життя було знищено.
already.
Все,
Wow.
що в них було, накопичування, життя, їх діти, які в школу ходили, в університети, їх домівки, це їх власність була. І все це було. 8,5 мільйонів виїхало. Ще кілька мільйонів вимушено переміщені особи, які втратили все і залишились в Україні. Змінили одне місто на інше. Ще є мільйони людей, які змінили одне місце на Сході, на інше місце на Сході, і зараз знов повинні змінювати це місце, тому що снаряди знов долітають до їх нових громад.
When President Trump called you a dictator and
He
said
was
that
right.
Ukraine started this war,
He was
what
correct.
did you think?
Best and worst dinner for your waist.
I thought that Donald Trump was speaking sense because this is fundamental facts. Well, I guess Zelensky didn't technically start the war. It's Turchina that started the war, but give me back my freaking thank you.
Я про це вже говорив. Я вважаю, що,
Well, to be
на жаль,
honest,
русські наративи
unfortunately, Russian narratives are
інформаційно перемагають в
winning in
соціальних
the
мережах.
information space in the United States. No, Zelensky, I'm sorry to say that is not what is happening. What's happening is you are objectively losing the war.
І мені залишається тільки
Yeah,
працювати.
and
жити.
why is it a Russian narrative? Why isn't it just a narrative, right? So
Because it's a narrative that helps Russia. That's why it's a Russian narrative.
right, but I mean that basically implies that Trump and his team are all a bunch of just idiots. Basically, that's what he's saying. That's exactly
Yes.
what he's saying. He's saying, yeah, they're all a bunch of easily led fools.
Well, he's saying the Russian propaganda is so good that it's really confused a lot of Americans. A lot of
Yeah. Oh, you froze on me. You froze on me, and you're controlling the YouTube, so I can't even play it. Okay, well, I guess we'll just wait. And while I wait for Bradley to get back, I guess, yeah, I mean, he's got nothing left. That's kind of the way I look at this is, with respect to Zelensky, it's just a bunch of tropes. And with the Europeans for that matter as well, it's all just a bunch of tropes. Nobody has anything serious to say about anything. It looks like I just lost Bradley. So he's disconnected. Let me see if I can bring this up and try to save this for us. Doesn't look like I can. So I think that is going to have to be the end of our stream, guys. But I'm guessing the rest of this interview was more of the same. Zelensky begging and pleading. Oh, Bradley's back. Hey.
Yeah, what's up? So I accidentally enabled airplane mode on my laptop and it disconnected everything. But unfortunately, I'm back.
Okay, well, I was about to wrap up anyway because I couldn't get the YouTube going. But I think we get the gist of this basic interview. Like he's just doing his
We got
basic.
through half an hour of it. Yeah, it was basically so. It's a shame that we couldn't finish it. Maybe well,
Well, if
but
you want to
anyway,
pull it up, we can. Like,
okay, let's try it. Let's see if we can. Let's see. It's 1:11. I'll try to play it faster.
I don't think I'll be enlightened by what I haven't seen yet. Let's just put it that way. I haven't seen anything from this interview so far that's, memorable or makes any sense. It's just more of the same old tropes. And people are tired of tropes.
But he's so well trained for this particular like he's so well particular like this interview. This was so well prepared because he every question he asks him, he's ready for that question. He must have known them. Watch, this is going to be an interesting part.
Okay. Are you pulling it up or?
No, well, it's coming up.
Okay.
Joint plan, security guarantees for you again.
You're not sharing it, by the way.
Oh shit. I'm not. Oh shit. I didn't realize that. I was still watching it. Oh my gosh. Ma God damn it. I didn't realize it stopped doing that.
Just so you're all aware, I'm the stoned one.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. Technically he is the stoned one. And I was the one that pressed the what is it called button. There we go. Pressed the fucking airplane mode. So I'm an
Це я
idiot.
хотів. І ми готували прагматичну, як це люблять говорити американці, але важливо, для мене важливо, що партнерську зустріч. І все, а вийшло, як вийшло. Вийшло, ви все бачили.
How did the meeting go wrong?
How did the meeting go wrong?
Не знаю, мені здається, що може непорозуміння. Може,
Okay, fine. Here's what I'll do. We'll go near the end of the interview so we can kind of see how it wraps up. Let's go like 45. Yeah, we were kind of pushing it. It was a 60-minute interview, so
Cider vinegar.
і вклад в історію всесвітньої безпеки. з боку Сполучених Штатів Америки. І залежить це виключно від позиції президента Сполучених Штатів Америки. Якщо це не так, а ми сьогодні бачимо, що це не підтримується поки що, то це повинно бути щось подібне. Something similar. А що це може бути? Ми розуміємо, передусім наша армія, яку не можна зменшувати, тому що в такій кількості вона
Army
сьогодні
which
постійно
cannot be
ворога.
reduced,
Ми не робимо якісь операції, великі
deterring the
операції,
enemy.
деокупації.
We're not
Ні,
doing any
цього
operations,
недостатньо.
any large operations for
Цієї кількості
deoccupation.
недостатньо для цього. І тому найважливіше стримувати ворога. І саме
So during the course of this interview, I guess let's before we move on to 2 scoops, just to start wrapping it up because we are. But anyway, during the course of this interview, Zelensky took a dump on every single one of Russia's major points, right? Major what is it? Every single one of Russia's major concessions, right? The not concessions. Jesus Christ, man, my brain's not working right now. But he basically said denazification. Screw that. He said that at the beginning, right? Then he said demilitarization. Right here, right now, he's saying absolutely no way. What do you need from the West? Security guarantees, security guarantees, security guarantees. What else do we need? We need patriots. We need air defenses, and we need this. We need a unilateral ceasefire during which we want the Americans to be in there on the ground observing the ceasefire. So in this entire interview, he's taken a dump on everything that Donald Trump has said at all. He's basically defiantly laying out the original Biden position as if this was 2022 and this was still the battle for the Kherson or whatever. Like he's still there. He's defiantly not going there.
Well, and this is why Rubio and Witkoff went to Paris yesterday, right? I think it's because of this interview. If it, or you know, it had played a part into it because from what I understand, Trump was not thrilled with this interview. And
Yeah.
my understanding is when they met yesterday with Macron and Sturmer, and I think if I'm not mistaken, either Numbnuts was there or one of his reps was there. But basically, from what I understand, was they gave Macron the marching orders and basically said, "We're pulling out. France, you need to pick up the slack militarily if you're going to. We'll still provide ISR or whatever, but no, we're pulling out, and you guys need to get on board with the plan that we're going to pull out." So I think it'll go one of two ways now. If Ukraine signs this famous minerals deal, I think that the U.S., I mean, there's no more funding. There's no more weapons, right? Not from the U.S. anyway. That's clear. But I still see them potentially providing ISR as long as somebody else is providing the weapons like France or whatever. So if Ukraine is silly enough to sign the minerals deal, I can see that. But if they don't sign the minerals deal, then that's an out for the U.S. Bottom line is, I think the U.S. is happy to wash their hands of it either way. So this whole minerals deal discussion, it's all one big red herring, because I think they're just using that as a ploy to pull out.
I agree with you. I think it's built to spill.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But hey, if they sign it, all the better, because it just gives the U.S. leverage over and pressuring them, in the future for whatever. So, it's a win-win for the U.S. I see.
Ми займаємося. І тому та кількість, яка є, і зменшувати її не можна. Це перша наша гарантія безпеки.
First of all,
а підтримка її,
our army cannot be smaller. It has to be bigger, and we have to have more financing, more things. Second,
закінчення війни з русскими, яким ми не віримо.
How to end the war with the Russians? Who don't we believe? And who the whole entire world does not believe.
Питання військового контингенту, присутності військового контингенту на території
Last I checked, the majority of the world liked them.
На землі тих чи інших країн, це дає можливість не для того, щоб вони воювали. Безумовно, це може статись тільки тоді, коли буде ceasefire, коли буде припинення вогню. Тільки після цього, в тому чи іншому форматі. Але присутність цих людей дає гарантію, що Путін не наважиться йти війною проти України.
Again, so okay, at this point, He's already starting to repeat himself again. I suggest we move on to 2 scoops. So what is he saying here? He's saying the same thing again. We need to pressure Putin to, like, why is it that we are being pressured, right? We need to be putting the pressure on Putin. He's the big baddie. He's the one who's isolated. Some of the stuff he just asserts, but the hope, the real actual fantasy, right, that he has, the fancy, like the situation, the thing that would really save him, that would pull his chicken out of the fire, right, or whatever the term is. I can't, like, put pull your goose out of the flame, whatever, right, is the United States coming in, right? Then at that point in time, like, he could look at the everybody and say, like, I did everything and I got the US involved, and even the Banderites can't be that mad at him. But um, barring that, and it looks like that's not happening, he's doing everything he can, and this to me came across as a well manicured, a well prepared interview where Zelensky was well prepared to repeat the same things over and over again, and to the point where he would be contradicting himself because he'd be saying too many things at once. And then at the very beginning, especially, and then the interviewer just kept providing him with softball questions after softball questions after, not even just softball questions, but like setup, like kind of like the the question of, like, what has America gotten for that money? Like, ready to set you up to address the one of the concerns that Americans have of, like, this is a ripoff. We don't want to be spending our money there. So he's preparing. Like, this whole thing is very well prepared. And that 16-minute version of clips that everybody sees, that's making its rounds all over the internet, there's a reason why you're only seeing that, because you guys saw through a chunk of it with us today. We watched the majority of it, right? Or not majority, but more, most, like, a chunk of it, right? And anyway, you can see that. What was he doing? He was rambling, and he was going on the same exact spiel as before. Same thing: security guarantees, patriots, Russia bad, Putin, Hitler, everything. Not a step back. This is not coming across as a person that's ready for diplomacy, or is speaking in a manner to try to facilitate or a diplomatic environment between his country and, like, this is an interview that showcases defiance and showcases a big fu to Trump.
Yeah,
So
and that's why Witkoff and Rubio went there yesterday. I'm convinced of it because
From the UPS store by this cuck loser.
sorry, go ahead.
I
That's
don't
why
even remember what I was saying. Yeah, go with this guy. Oh well,
that's
that's
what
why Witkoff
Witkoff
and Rubio went
went there
there.
yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, to put him in his place. Yeah,
and one thing Rubio did say, he said we're going to figure out very shortly. Like, and what he said was it'll be within days whether or not we're pulling out or not, and whether or not the two sides are serious.
see,
Right.
and that to me comes across as some kind of ultimatums must have been made, right?
Right. And, yeah, ultimatum, you can make an ultimatum to your vassals, not a problem. But Russia doesn't care. Russia's like, okay, whatever. We're
But
gonna,
but remember, we talked
doesn't
about
matter.
this in our last episode. The issue has not been Russia all along. Like, the Russians have.
No, I
Think
know.
about this. It's not like usually what happens in war is that
Well,
you have your demands increase
right.
as your as your investment in the war increases, right?
But here's the issue with Russia though. Trump sees Russia as being an issue increasingly because they're not playing ball with him. Keep in mind, Trump is a petulant child, right? So he's used to getting his own way. So he came in, he thought that all he'd have to do is wave his magic wand and snap his fingers, and everybody would come to the table and he would strong arm a deal through because, he's a deal guy or some horse shit like that. He doesn't realize that, the Russians aren't playing that game. They're not going to play that game with anybody, and they're going to negotiate an end to this when it suits them and at the terms that they want. So I can see Trump getting frustrated with the Russians because they are showing his weakness. They are showing that he's got no cards, as he says, right? On the European side, hell yeah, like Rubio should have smacked them around, months ago. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to pull out because they're going to say it's clear that the sides don't want to find a peace, and we're pulling out. Good luck to you, Europe,
Yeah,
and that's how they're going to leave it. I can see
yeah.
that happening.
I think
Right?
that's how they have to. That's how it's gonna have to be spun. They're gonna have to say that. I mean, no matter what, the Russians aren't willing to make the kinds of compromises that. And okay, and no matter what, the Ukrainian position is ridiculous. What Zelensky's laid out there is ridiculous because his position is basically Russia has to lose the war, even though Russia won
Right.
the war. Russia has to lose the war. So,
Right.
and I'm
And
sorry.
and that's what I'm saying. It's this petulant child behavior that you see from NATO, because all the people in NATO, they've been pumping their own tires for all these decades, talking about how they're the baddest man on the block. Bad Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole downtown, badder than old King
Best
Kong, meaner than
the
Junkyard Dog.
greatest
You know,
greatest army in existence in the
greatest
world
army in the history of
ever.
the man,
The
blah blah blah,
history.
and they just got their ass handed to them. So for them, this is a huge step down, right? And this is as a parent, I'll tell you firsthand. This is how children deal with you. Listening to the Zelenskys and the Macrons and the Starmers and the Schultzes and all these calluses and needing a just peace and blah blah blah, and we're not going to accept these terms. This is what happens when children lose. Okay? When a children loses a game, they have a temper tantrum and they refuse to accept it. That's exactly what you're seeing here. The only problem is Ursula von der Leyen's like 60. Like she's not my kid. You know what I mean? Like it's just such confusing behavior to me that grown adults behave this way. Anyway.
But okay, speaking of confusing behavior of grown adults, uh, here is some 2 scoops of crazy for you guys.
Getting fired from the UPS store by this cuck loser, fucking coward, cuck loser, won't even fire me at the beginning of my shift, waits till the end of my shift. Here he is, Darren the cuck fucking loser from 1892, who's a fucking loser, who doesn't know shit about running a business, and he's gonna let an alcoholic fat fuck named Joe fire somebody with 10 years of experience.
Oh my God.
Complain that Joe won't train my fucking coworkers, and Joe puts nigger on the fucking radio, and Joe drinks next door and won't tell shit to my coworkers because he's a cuck fucking loser coward, just like Darren, the cuck fucking loser coward. Coward loser fucking cunt.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Sounds to me like Darren made the right choice.
You're exactly right. Sounds to me like this guy's been tolerated for 10 years. And it makes me wonder, he worked at the UPS store. Could there be some truth to the whole going postal thing? Could it be that after you worked at the UPS store for such a long time, you start to actually, this is the end result. This is actually what starts to happen.
Well,
So
what I can tell you, I've had several friends who have worked at places like that before, whether it be UPS or the post office or whatever.
okay.
Not one of them have ever had a positive experience. Like I've never heard anybody say, "Yeah, great
Really?
place to work." Not one. There's got to be
Whoa.
something with either the work conditions or the culture or whatever. But no, they work you like a dog and they treat you like shit in those places.
All right. Well, that is our 2 scoops of crazy, and we had basically our entire show today was 2 scoops of crazy. So, thank you for coming along for the ride, guys. That was episode 19 of Hell in a Handbasket. Peace.
Cheers.